Essentially, quick recap, F-15 jet had 2 niggas in it. One nigga died. The other nigga was a colonel. Colonel ejected. He escaped. He was on a manhunt where the Iranians wanted to capture him for information, and the United States wanted him rescued so that he couldn't leak out information. The reason why the F-15 jet was even there in the first place was because the United States was trying to do a secret operation where they send the F-15 jet to bomb a uranium site in Iran, and they sent these MH-6 helicopters to also go and bomb the shit out of it and be in and out quick. And they were using Karg Island as a distraction so that no one saw it coming. But because the F-15 jet got hit, it destroyed their plans completely, and they had to drop everything to go rescue this pilot so that there wasn't an intelligence leak. And now that they have no plan anymore and everything's gone to shit, that's why the US agreed to a 2-week ceasefire to just put things on hold. However, the cookies and Benjamin Netanyahu don't give a shit, and they're currently bombing Lebanon to break the ceasefire. Alright niggas, so what the heck was this whole F-15 jet lore that was happening a few days ago? So if you've been living under a rock, a few days ago with the ongoing Iran war conflict, the US had basically sent this F-15 fighter jet to Iran and it got shot down. Now on this F-15 fighter jet, there were 2 crewmen. One guy was like flying the plane, and I think his code name was like Wizzy or something, and then the other guy was a colonel. Now when it got shot down, unfortunately one of the dudes died. But the colonel guy actually survived. He ejected, and there was a whole manhunt that was going on for the past 4 days where the Iranians were trying to capture him so they could, you know, torture him and get intel from him. The US were also trying to rescue him from that. And yeah, it was a crazy thing. I mean, apparently he was like hiking in mountains and hiding in mountains and stuff. So yeah, he did get rescued. But the biggest mystery is that why were the US so locked in on getting this guy back? Because if you think about it, the US and, you know, these governments, they don't give a shit about you. They'll say that, oh, our brothers in arms and, you know, we're brothers and, you know, we're gonna die for our country and we'll save you and all this, but that's all bullshit. If we all got drafted for World War III or for the Iran war, and your fat ass friend named Tim got captured by the Iranians, the US ain't doing shit to go and recover him. Because he's useless. He doesn't really have any valuable things. Like, there's no reason to get him back. They don't care about you. You're just a good guy. Whereas if you're a colonel, like in this situation, and you have secret intel on the US's plans and stuff like that, they're gonna lock in to get your ass back. Because if they don't, and you do get captured and, you know, the enemy extracts information from you, that is a huge intelligence leak. And now your enemies benefit from that, and they have, you know, info on you, and your plan falls apart. So then it gets into what was this whole operation? Why was there an F-15 jet there? Well, for the past week and, you know, a few weeks, Trump has basically been on the media basically saying that he wants to do a ground invasion. And he's been yapping about Kargi Island. We're gonna do a ground invasion. We're gonna control the Strait of Hormuz. Me and the Ayatollah. And he's just been yapping in the media, and the media is basically just portraying that, you know, he's trying to do a ground invasion. They're gonna probably strike Karg Island, and that's what the whole media was focused on. However, why was there an F-15 jet? Well, it's simple. Again, you can fact check my sources, but I've done some research on this, and I mean, you could look it up yourself. Basically, the US was trying to hit a uranium site in Iran. Again, uranium sites are basically sites where, you know, they're getting a ton of uranium or whatever and basically building nuclear weapons or a nuke or whatever. Now, what we gotta understand about Iran's whole nuclear program is that Iran currently doesn't have any nukes yet, or hasn't been developed, even though Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying that weapons of mass destruction. He's been yapping about how they're gonna build a nuke in a week and we gotta strike them now for the past 40 years now. But yeah, they don't have any nukes, and Khamenei, who's the supreme leader of Iran who got assassinated the first day of the war, put a fatwa out. Fatwa is basically a ruling, you know, Islamic ruling saying that we can't use nukes. It's haram. But then why are they still trying to build nukes? Well, it's simple. Iranians have a few different types of defense systems against their enemies, which is right now the Israel and the United States. First is the acts of resistance. Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis in Yemen, yeah, all these like resistance groups, which are basically groups that, you know, defend for them and fight back against injustices. The second thing that they have are their missile program. Basically, Iran has tons and tons and tons of missiles that they produce in Iran at home. They have a ton of shitty missiles that they just make with a bunch of scraps that's just used to just cause damage to, you know, whatever they're bombing, like the Gulf states. So send the shitty drones, waste them to waste their air defense systems, and then they have a lot of better drones, and then they also have missiles and drones from, the Chinese and stuff that they've bought. But this is, very valuable to them because they can just make so many of them, and they don't rely on another country to supply them with it. So, if that country says, hey, we don't want to supply it to you, they're not cooked because they make so many at home. We've seen from what they've done to Tel Aviv and the Gulf states and the 12-day war that they have a lot of them and that they're very powerful and strong. Iran also has the Strait of Hormuz. It controls 20% of the world's oil, and they can economically hurt their enemies by not letting them trade with the Strait of Hormuz. And they can benefit, the United States' enemies like Russia and China by allowing them to trade with them and then benefit their own economy while making the US's economy shit. Iran has all of these defense tactics that they've been using in the war to economically hurt their enemies and strategically hurt the United States and Israel because they know that they can't really win on a one-on-one fight. But they're still making the nukes because it is a last resort option as a form of defense. So if all things went to shit, at least they have the nuke that they can then use. It's another form of defense. Also, generally, when countries have nukes, it deters other people from attacking them, right? Because they have a nuke and they can nuke them back and it's going to do a lot of damage. Especially if two countries have nukes, there's a very low chance they're going to fight each other. So, for example, if we have Pakistan, nuclear-armed country, and the US, let's say they went into a war. If the US decided to nuke Pakistan, while that nuke's pulling up, Pakistan's just going to send a nuke back, and then both sides take a ton of damage. So it's kind of useless, which is why nuclear weapons are a good way to deter war. That's part of the reason why Iran is still trying to build their nukes and work on their nuclear program. But yeah, now that makes sense why the F-15 jet was there, because it was a secret operation where they were trying to hit a certain uranium site in Iran, because that jet was supposed to just be in and out. And they were using Karg Island in the media to distract the Iranians and distract the whole media so they can secretly do this quick operation of bombing the shit out of that site and getting rid of that nuclear program. That also explains why there was a colonel and why they were locking in so hard to go and rescue him back. Because normally it would just be like a random fighter jet nigga. Why is it a colonel who has a ton of information and is very valuable to the US, and why were they locking in so hard to make sure that he doesn't get captured and that he doesn't leak out information? It's because this was supposed to be a secret operation. Further evidence is that the actual niggas that the US sent to go rescue them were sent in MH6 Little Birds, which is basically a chopper, but it's a more smaller chopper, and these types of choppers aren't really meant to be used for rescue operations. They're more so meant to be used to attack and be in and out quickly and for attack missions. The fact that they were like the closest nearby and they were sent there is suspicious as well. Probably means that the US had an entire plan where they were going to use Karg Island as a distraction, and behind everyone's back they were going to do this secret operation where the F-15 jet goes and these choppers go and they bomb the shit out of the uranium site and they're out just like that. And the Iranians wouldn't have seen it coming because of the Karg Island situation. However, that backfired on the US because the Iranians were able to shoot down the F-15 jet. And then that's where the whole plan fell apart, where the US had to put all their eggs in one basket, drop everything, and just lock in on getting that pilot back so that this information couldn't get leaked out to the public and to the Iranians. Now that he's captured, it also makes sense why the US kind of wanted to do this ceasefire that we have now and, put a hold for 2 weeks. Is because they probably had this entire plan set up and more so stuff planned after that for this war, but it all went to shit, which is why now they're just losing their minds. They don't know what to do, and that's probably why they agreed to this ceasefire so that they can chill out for a bit and plan later on ahead. But then you got Benjamin Netanyahu and the cookies who don't give a shit, and now they're bombing the shit out of Lebanon so that the war can continue and the ceasefire is broken. So yeah, that's pretty much the entire lore of the whole F-15 jet. Essentially, quick recap, F-15 jet had 2 niggas in it. One nigga died. The other nigga was a colonel. Colonel ejected, he escaped, he was on a manhunt where the Iranians wanted to capture him for information and the United States wanted him rescued so that he couldn't leak out information. The reason why the F-15 jet was even there in the first place was because the United States was trying to do a secret operation where they send the F-15 jet to bomb a uranium site in Iran, and they sent these MH6 helicopters to also go and bomb the shit out of it and be in and out quick. And they were using Karg Island as a distraction so that no one saw it coming. But because the F-15 jet got hit, it destroyed their plans completely, and they had to drop everything to go rescue this pilot so that there wasn't an intelligence leak. And now that they have no plan anymore and everything's gone to shit, that's why the US agreed to a 2-week ceasefire to just put things on hold. However, the cookies and Benjamin Netanyahu don't give a shit, and they're currently bombing Lebanon to break the ceasefire. Yeah, that's essentially the whole lore, and thanks for watching, and peace.